for Tuesday to like.
Yeah,
chop
we
it
were
up
going to do a live podcast. I wasn't excited. I was nervous. All right.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Are we
we'll
ready?
focus,
Because
yeah.
I know you have to get to the restaurant.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right.
Okay.
Are we good?
Are you there, God?
Where do I look?
Okay. Awesome.
Oh, okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Okay.
Poor Jack. Okay. He's like, good guys. Okay. Here we go. Is this good?
Oh, sorry, guys. There's just a naked man.
No.
Directly outside.
Ooh.
He's
What?
walked into the tea station. No, he's already gone.
Oh no. We missed it. That's
Stop us
there's
when it
an
comes back.
opener for you. A naked man outside of the
Are you
production
kidding?
studio.
Okay.
Wow, damn. Okay,
Okay.
that would have been great to capture live. All right, anyway.
Okay.
Okay. That is really funny.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay. Welcome to Setting the Bar. I am Maddie,
I'm Sarah.
and we are here with Rachel Miller from Nightshade Noodle Bar, among many other great accomplishments. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
coming,
having
Rachel.
me. I'm so happy to be here.
We are so excited to chat, me mostly about food. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah, no, it is your favorite thing
It
to
is.
talk about.
It is.
Yeah,
She's
it
like,
is.
"Can
I was like,
confirm."
wait, yep, nope,
Yep,
it
nope,
is.
it's
It is.
food.
Yes,
It's food.
yes.
So you have been in the Boston culinary scene for over 12 years. You started out at Clio. Was that your first Boston?
I
Foray.
had a little. I worked for Jason Bond prior to that, but
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Now
I had the best bite of food of my life at Clio in 2014. So it's like quite possible like you prepared it.
I think so. Yeah, that was the year that Clio closed was 2014
Right.
and 2015, and I was the last CDC there.
I know,
Wow.
it's so cool.
So
When I
that's
read
so nice
that
to hear.
timing, I was like, wow, because I think about it so often because I can never have it again. It was like, it was an uni spoon.
Oh yes, the
was-
uni spoon. That's a classic Ken Oranger dish. They still have that at the uni. That's
Do
in
they?
Oh,
the-
do they?
Yeah, the restaurant's called Uni now, and it's still there. You should go get it.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, I
All right.
go there just for those.
It was
personally.
so phenomenal, and I've never been the same since. So great job on the uni spoon.
Oh, thanks.
Isn't that so interesting how, like, a moment of time, it's so meaningful because of that type of experience and
Yep.
what food does to you?
So true. Well, you talk a lot about that, just like how food isn't just about filling the belly; it's about filling the soul.
Yeah, yeah. It's all, we're all like these really complicated beings, and like you're either. I mean, there's plenty of times where we're all eating just to like fuel up and like move on.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly like that in a lot of my day to day. But when you're having an experience, that's a totally different thing. Like we're trying to hit you on like a nostalgic level, a spiritual level, a physical level, but try to keep you comfortable at the same time with like lots of different stuff going on in your body.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like there's this delicate balance of how to coordinate a meal to hit all those marks. So it, you're not just like in a shoveling station.
Right.
Right.
So true. It's cool to think about all the stuff that goes on in the background. I mean, I feel like people know it a little bit better after shows like The Bear and stuff. Like the
What are your thoughts on the
yeah,
band?
What do you think about The Bear?
Is that real life?
I've not watched it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I feel
that's
like
fair.
I don't really like industry focused restaurant industry focused TV because stuff feels a little embellished or like
Right.
Yeah, I'm
you know.
sure.
Also, like I'm trying to leave my stress at work and
Yeah.
like not bring it home.
I get that.
I do too.
A lot of the time, but from what I've heard of The Bear, that is a lot of people's experience, but not mine. So
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Probably
you
a
know.
good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
That's probably why you've lasted so long in terms of sort of starting from the beginning of your like professional career, let's call it, when you were younger, all the way up to where you are now, being such a successful, very, very well-known restaurateur in Boston and probably worldwide.
ooh,
Yeah,
one
maybe. I
day.
think so. I
Maybe
think
one
That is
day.
cool.
I've
That's
certainly
cool.
had, like it's not an easy job, and like
Yeah.
for those of us who are like hardcore career cooks, like
Right.
it is very competitive.
Yeah.
It's very emotional. It takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
Like for myself, like I don't want to speak for everyone, but for
Right.
most of the people that I've worked with and for myself, we are all or nothing people. You can't
Yeah.
like have your foot like kind of in there.
Yeah.
You got to be like all in order to be successful. And and when you're completely devoted to something, little mishaps in the day like aren't really a big deal.
Right.
Right.
There's always going to be people who resent success of others or
Yes,
try to, like destroy your mise en place or what,
Ugh.
like you name it, like we've
Yeah.
been through it,
Yeah.
I've been
Right.
shoulder checked and I just shoulder check on back.
Right.
Yeah, girl.
This was
Right.
10 years ago. We can't do that anymore. But
Look, it
No
is what it
shoulder
is,
checking.
and we're in Boston where that kind of stuff
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
if
Okay.
I will
it's
stick up
legal
for
and
myself.
encouraged.
Yes, I will stick up for myself,
You should,
and
yeah.
and that's what we got to do to be our best selves, I think.
Right.
So.
So it's all encompassing for you. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Where do you go out to eat around here? Like, what is that something that you do on your like off time, or are you solely focused on your own restaurant?
I'm mostly just focused on
Yeah.
my own. I don't go out to eat very much.
You don't, yeah.
And like when I do at this point, due to other cool events that we've been invited to, like we were at the
Yeah.
White House
What?
the last
Tell
2
us
days.
more about that. Wait, the last 2 days, like these past 2
Monday,
days?
Tuesday, yeah.
Really?
Wow,
Well,
okay.
actually, it was just Tuesday. I was just in DC on Monday to prepare, but there was a American culinary diplomacy gathering at the
Oh,
White
I
House,
saw
hosted by the First
that.
Lady, and the Beard Foundation and the State Department, and that was really cool. There's like a group of 80 of us from all over the country who get to. It's might not happen again because
Yeah.
of the new shebang that's about
Right.
to happen, but like
That's a nice way to put it. The new shebang.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, keep it a little PC, but that was just such a huge honor. Like that was just chefs from all over the country
That
who
is
have
so
different
cool.
viewpoints on stuff. We're all of different cultural backgrounds, and basically putting together this like culinary fabric for
Yeah.
the state. And that was a big honor to be a part of. So when I went to do that, I was
amazing.
like, you know what? I'm in DC. There's a Michelin Guide in DC.
Yeah.
I'm taking all my money to DC.
Yeah,
and
girl.
I'm gonna eat it. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I did.
Ooh.
And,
Wow.
What was the best bite?
I had foie gras cotton candy at Jose Andres Bazaar
What?
that I have wanted to try ever since I was little. It feels like since I saw
Wow,
that in like a
yeah.
magazine,
So
I don't
cool.
know, 20 years ago, I was just like that I gotta have that.
Wow.
And I want to be that, and I want to
Yeah.
do that. And that was really cool to experience as an adult.
Right.
Like I've been looking for that my whole
Right.
life, basically. And then, I got invited to something in DC and was like, cool, I'm
Now I
definitely
get
gonna
to
eat
go.
that.
Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
What an honor.
I saw another very culturally famous Boston chef was there also as an ambassador. How do you get selected as an ambassador?
I don't know personally.
You just got the call.
A friend of a friend at Wolf's Fish, who's a fish purveyor, reached out and mentioned it to me, and I was like, sure, I'd be interested in hearing about this.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of unraveled. But I'm so shy and weird that I just stay in my bubble and like I don't answer the phone or
Yeah.
do
Ooh,
anything.
Yeah,
So like
no numbers.
yeah, like if I haven't even been in my dining room, but like 3 times in 5 years. Like I just really stay by myself
Yeah,
away.
that's what you like
And
to do,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like it
Yeah.
there. I'm happy there. I'm fine
Right.
with that. So yeah, I don't know how things happen a lot of the time. I'm just like, I'm glad to be here and I'll
Yeah,
do
you're
everything in
just
my power to
thankful.
be good, you know.
That's amazing.
And it's
What did you
I'm very
make?
proud. We didn't have to cook.
Oh, you didn't have to cook.
Oh.
Yeah, which was honestly the best part.
Wow.
Because, we're all getting a little old and tired of working on our days off, and like,
You're like,
people just want us to like cook on our days
bet.
off
Yeah.
and
I
everything,
bet.
everywhere. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so it was really nice to it was like literally like a cocktail reception.
Wow.
Like we just saw a couple of speeches and we got to
So
hang out
cool.
and like
yeah, and be
have
in the
some
White
wine
House.
and like eat some
Yeah.
be in the White House. It was
That's
really
very
cool to like I've never seen the portraits of the
Right.
Either.
former first ladies.
No.
Like that was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
And it was just a nice energy,
Yeah.
to be there like with a bunch of chefs.
Right.
It's like we're all weird together.
I
Right.
love it.
Right.
Yeah. We're like,
We're
oh,
all
you don't know how to
weird
talk to
together.
people either? Great. We
Cool.
can just stand
Let's-
here and look
yeah.
like it.
Right. Act like we've been here.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I think it's so cool. Like, I think it really says a lot about how our society views, like, restaurants as a whole and chefs as a whole, I like that it's elevated to that level because I think we take for granted a lot of the time, like going out to eat and having the opportunity to eat different foods culturally. Like I know you were raised, but your grandma was French, Moroccan, Jewish.
Yes.
That's like
Yeah.
a pretty
That's a pretty
dope,
specific thing.
Yes.
It's a very specific
very specific,
background.
but also like such a great combo of really, I would say like pretty unique foods culturally. Like French cuisine is very
Definitely.
specific. Moroccan cuisine is very specific. Like there are some Jewish foods that are like there's like one way to make them when you eat them. Do you feel like that kind of shaped your desire to have like a really specific type of restaurant, like when you're noodle bar?
Kind of, yes. For the noodle bar, it's French and Vietnamese. I'm not French or Vietnamese. Those are my two like favorite things that I've learned to like cook and like I came up at a handful of French restaurants and I've traveled to Vietnam and I've put a lot of effort into learning about them separately and then learning about their cultural involvement together
really
in the
cool.
past, and was just like a really interesting, intimate experience for me as a nerd. Like
Yeah.
I could look at a recipe and be like, oh, this must have been before the French colonization, and this
That
was
is
towards the
very
end of
cool.
it, and this is when the spice trade must have happened, so this had to happen around this period of time, and like maybe British food is involved, and then you can kind of like like look at a big map of the world and just sort of gain an understanding of how people migrate, travel,
Yeah.
wars have impacted everything, and it's just a peculiar and really, really awesome thing to start to understand. Like I'll never,
Yeah.
like it's a can of worms that's never
I'm
ending.
sure, yeah.
Like
I bet.
I could, and I started just like watching YouTube videos about like Vietnamese street cooking, and then I would see familiar things and then zoom in and find that on a different computer screen and just like get
That is
way
really
deep, hours and
cool.
hours and hours. Just like I could just sit there for hours and
Wow.
a days and like not understand the language or what's going on, but like think about like, okay, these kinds of spices came from this part of the world. How
Yeah.
did that end up there? And that kind of thing, I definitely think I picked up a bit of that from my grandmother, even though that wasn't much conversation with her. Like English was her third or fourth language. So there were things that she would tell me. I don't have any good examples right now, but like cumin was not like, it was whatever the Arabic word was or the Hebrew word
yeah.
or the French,
Yeah.
like whatever was
Yeah.
Right.
wherever she was at in her head at the time. So like there were a lot of things that I've come across as an adult cooking where I'm like, oh, I know this, but like my grandma just called it something different. And like thinking about things like that when I look at old Moroccan books is like helpful. So it was really more helpful in terms of gaining like context for
Right.
how complicated all of this can be, and like
Yeah.
but in a fun way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. Yeah, I guess that was more what I was trying to get at before, like having it elevated to culinary ambassador is so deserving because it isn't just like whipping up some really delicious noodles. The thought and the care and the science and the history that goes into it is really what makes it so special.
I agree, and thank you. And I think that one of the bigger parts that we like, we can take for granted when we go out to eat is like, for lack of a better way to phrase it, like, well, you also didn't get sick. Like somebody had to know how to not
Right.
hurt
That's
you.
right.
Poison you.
That's right.
Yeah, and like, there's so much more that goes into it besides like the creative aspects of
Totally.
it. Like
Right.
restaurants are like one of the most complicated businesses
Yep.
that you could do because
Right.
there's like 1,000 moving parts and they all affect each other, and everyone who operates those, like the powers that be in other industries have no
Right.
idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
So they're just like, we're going to need you to print this out and fill it out and send it back again and again and again. And I'm like, I don't know how to use a printer.
Right.
Like, come on. Like,
I'm
Yeah.
reading about Moroccan spices here.
yeah, dude. So, just silly little stuff like that. But yeah, they're big operations, even if it's a really tiny restaurant. Like everything is complicated. We have to know how to handle each of these things,
Yeah.
how to not accidentally make chemical reactions,
yeah.
how to not make botulism.
Yeah.
You know, people forget about all that cool
You're right.
stuff.
Yeah.
You're
And,
right.
you know, so I think that all of this focus on like behind the scenes stuff, like with social media and regular media is
Right.
helpful,
Yeah.
you know, because like who wants to,
Right.
yeah, I don't know how to articulate my thought, but
No, but it's
essentially-
interesting to think about in terms of, you know, you're a cook at heart, and that's what you're, you know, really good at, and you're obviously you have a gift for it. But now you're running a business, a pretty substantial business at the same time. So we've had conversations with some other small businesses or startup companies, and there's I think about like Darcy Krinsky with Higher Ground Fitness, her trying to figure out how to you know, get a small business loan, trying to
Right.
because she was passionate about fitness and had Higher Ground Fitness, and so it is interesting to think about. You're a great cook, but how do you then run your own business? How
Right.
like there's so many
Yeah.
different. Is it learning as you go?
yeah, there's no
Yeah.
like information out there.
No, there's not like
And it's a pretty
Google.
competitive
Yeah.
field, so there's not
Yeah.
like a
Right.
lot of people that are like, here's how you do it.
Right.
You know?
yeah, they don't want you to
to
succeed.
blow them
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there
there's-
is that whole. There's only so much of pieces of pie you can take, and
Right.
if you're really successful, are you taking it away from them?
Someone
So they're
else,
not
yeah.
going to share it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that a lot of, I mean, opening the restaurant, I didn't originally want to have a restaurant. Like I just wanted to spend somebody else's money.
Yeah,
like
that's always
I,
better.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
I really like. I was just watching. I worked for mostly independent restaurateurs and like watching a lot of them just kind of be so overwhelmed
Right.
and watching the things that they would go through, just due to the business or because of like me when I was like a young asshole.
Right.
As we all are.
Yeah, you know, we all go through the phase. But like
Right.
when I think about that, well, I was just, you know, I was watching that and I was like, I don't, you know, this doesn't
Like
seem
who
like
wants
fun.
to deal
Right.
with that?
Like I just
Yeah.
kind of want to go like work on a cruise.
Right.
Yeah.
And like live in a yurt and just go surfing all the time and
Yeah.
like not
I
do
love
this.
that.
Yeah.
And then I just caught myself in a situation in Boston where after Clio closed,
Yep.
there weren't tasting menu restaurants, and that was just like what I did
Yeah.
at that point, and I didn't really want to do anything else. So I was like, well, I've got to eat, so I couldn't find a job anywhere. And so I started Nightshade Pop-Up, which I had for like 2.5 years, renting other people's restaurants and like cooking in people's homes and stuff like that.
So cool.
And then I just saved up money and like figured it out. But like it was rough. I did a lot of things that I wish I knew better to do. But there's no like,
There's no guidebook.
there's no,
Yeah.
yeah. And like, especially with like the catch-22 at every city hall of opening anything,
Ooh,
it's
yeah.
just like, I remember being like, yeah, I have a business certificate.
right.
I didn't have a business.
No, you. Yeah.
but I
you
needed that
fake
piece
it
of
till you
paper so I
make
could
it.
get the business
I know.
certificate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and that's what a lot of it just boiled down
Right.
to was like, can I say it with a straight face or not?
Right. Right.
And
It's true.
It
It's
worked
like it's
out.
so interesting because it's like you don't get taught this until you're thrown into it and you learn on the go. And then I think about, I'm like, I wish I could like write a book and leave it out for like my former self to
Right.
say, like, here's how to make your life so much easier
yeah.
without having to go through all this shit to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
know.
agree. I've thought a lot about all the things that I've just sort of had to force navigate for myself and like when serious cooks who are like looking to start a pop-up or looking to, you know, start their own thing, when they ask me, I am very clear with them that like I could tell you what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you learn from that maybe like what not to do or what to morph to fit your needs. But like there's no right or wrong way to do it. And
Yeah.
every municipality has their different hoops to jump through.
Right.
And it just is what it is. Like I've had the restaurant for 5 years and I've never heard of a dumpster permit till I got fined for not having one
Yeah,
a month
that's
ago.
wild. They
Like,
probably made it up like last year.
Yeah, maybe,
As
who
another way
knows?
to get our money.
like I just stop stressing out every time I see an official envelope. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever. I'm just
okay.
gonna go take a nap.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I can't lose sleep over that stuff anymore.
You can't do
for
all the
sure.
things. Yeah, you can't.
No.
It would be impossible to.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I want to, I'm a way better, I don't think I'm like a model business owner, but I want to be. And I think that that's good enough for, that's my good enough excuse to keep, forging my path.
Yeah.
Because like, on paper, a lot of people are a shit show.
Right.
And that's just also the nature of restaurants.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when you're in a business that doesn't really make money, it just generates cash flow. And then like, there's just like taxes and more of
Right.
this, and
Yeah.
people get to vote about what kind of money you get to make. And then just,
Yeah.
like it just gets
That
really
is wild to think about, actually.
difficult to, that was wild. What
Yeah.
a wild time. Of course, it's worded to make us sound like monsters, but
I know. Well,
question 5.
right.
But it's like, you're talking about a business that wasn't ever designed to hold that amount of payroll, and then all these other industries that this business relies on are
Right.
not priced to accommodate anything but what they're priced to accommodate. It's
Right.
just like, okay, now we're going to pay people more, which,
Right.
it's not like
Everybody
nobody
deserves
wants
to be paid, right, of course,
Yeah.
of
right.
course. But I'm like,
Right.
how much can I really charge for this?
Right.
And we're an expensive restaurant. So,
Right.
Yeah,
How do
I
these
know.
mom and
So how?
pop places?
I mean, there's just no margins in like
No,
the
it's
margin.
stupid.
It's the same with co-working. The margin is so tight, and everybody comes in and wants some sort of piece, and it's like there's no
Yeah.
pieces. Like
Right.
Yeah.
we watch the margins all day, every day. But what I think about that too with the restaurant business and with the whole what was it, Proposition 5 or what was
Yeah.
it called?
Question
ballot
Question
question.
5
Yeah.
that came up, and so that's been in the news a lot, obviously, where it's after the election, and thankfully that didn't pass. But
Yeah.
but it was eye-opening to see, and restaurant owners didn't want it, but employees didn't want it either.
Right. That's
No.
what
So
is always so
what
strange.
is right?
Yeah.
Nobody wanted it.
Well, that to me should have been the telling part. It's
I
not
agree.
like
Right.
it's not like owners have that much control over employees to be like, tell your friends we
Right.
said
Oh,
no.
Exactly.
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, because
right.
well, and they make more money with
Right,
tipping.
well,
Yeah,
I was
of
just going to
course.
say, especially if they feel like they're not making enough money, they're going to go and tell people, like, do this if it's going to make them more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a whole episode on how, don't put this in, Jack, but like how our government doesn't support small business.
Oh,
businesses.
100%.
Actually,
yeah.
you can put that in. Our government
Right.
doesn't support
They
small
don't
business.
support us.
Yeah.
They
In
don't.
Massachusetts, it's a very difficult town to run a small business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very difficult. Nobody makes it easy on us.
Was that part of your decision to move out to Lynn? To be outside of like Metro Boston?
I knew I didn't like. I knew that there was I had no desire to be in Boston, mostly because of that, because it was just not going to be affordable.
Right.
For the kind of concept that I wanted to have, but also I wanted to be somewhere like I'm a homebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this context when I was listening to the podcast you did with the woman from Reebok. I'm forgetting
Yes,
her name
Darcy.
right
Yeah,
now.
Darcy.
Darcy, yes. Like I know that there are people like me who also want a quiet life in the
You're so
suburbs
right.
Right.
that also want to eat
Good
food
food.
Right.
and like maybe pay less for parking than the dinner itself. Like
Yeah.
I thought,
Amen. Right.
I was like, you know what? I can't be the only one who's like this. Nuts.
Yeah.
And it paid off. Like I
Yeah,
don't.
it's so great.
We have random slow nights just like any restaurant, but overall, like we're booked 2 months out.
Right.
It's not cheap. It's blind. Like you get
Right.
to pick like one or two things. Like if the server happens to mention it to you, which they're supposed to.
Right.
But,
Don't
like,
forget, guys.
You know,
Yeah.
like people are waiting 2 months to come eat there, and like they don't know what they're getting, and that's a
Right.
big honor. And like I wouldn't really be able to like force my way if
Right.
it was in a place where, essentially like I pay per year what I would be paying per month in Boston proper.
It's wild.
Therefore, I can have a living wage
Right.
for all. Like we have a
Yeah.
very specific labor model that's really complicated and basically ensures that I don't make money. But we all get to do it together, and like
Yeah.
that's my duty as of right now. I'll have to open something else so that I can
Right.
like not be a 40-year-old line cook. 'Cause it's gonna kill me. But like but yeah, like and to question 5, I said this to plenty of our guests and friends. Like we already operate as if that's
Yeah.
the thing, because I once thought that was going to work, but like,
Right.
Right.
then the pandemic happened and the world keeps happening and everything doesn't really
Right.
stop sucking. We just get used to it.
That's
So,
right.
Like now I'm still here and it's working and it's fine and like I can pay my bills and like
Right.
we're okay, but like it's not like
You're not rolling in it.
smart. Yeah, it's not. We're not
Yeah.
rolling in it.
Yeah.
So next steps are trying to figure out how to expand in a way that we can. And I just paused all plans until after we were sure what this vote was
Yeah, I
going to
get that.
happen.
Yeah.
Like what we were going to do with that. But we essentially already operate the restaurant as if we're like, there was like a sliding scale. I don't remember all the numbers off the top of my head, but each year that minimum wage would go up a little bit, and we're like just under the top of that tier. And I'm just like screaming from the rooftops. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, do people wait to spend $600 on dinner at your restaurant? You're not going to be able to pay.
Right.
Not that owners need me to say that, but like,
Yeah.
it really helped put that into perspective for people. And like, yeah, I just had to be a little bit vulnerable about it.
Right.
And be like,
Totally.
we're doing a cool thing and we're doing a nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to be cool, nice, and smart and profitable all
Right.
at
It
the same
sure
time.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sure
And
is.
so we're basically like cool and nice, and then like mostly smart, and then like profitable is like maybe one day.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a funny juggle. It's not a realistic thing. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's over with, and I'm glad that it was
Yeah.
over with by a lot.
Right.
Like there was
By a
a
lot.
massive gap.
Yeah.
Yes. By a lot.
Or it seemed like
and-
people understood what they were voting for.
Yeah, and then we campaigned against it too, and I always pay attention to the people who speak against whatever we're going for, because like
Right.
it's helpful. Like you want to try to like
Of
level
course.
and like understand a little bit, and like I could channel my inner angry teenager that's mad at the world for
Right.
like everything, and I'm like, yeah, owners should pay more, and
Yeah.
now I'm an owner, and I'm like, dude, I'm still punk rock, but like it just really doesn't work like that. You can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Like
I know.
it's just, at the end of the day, I give everything I have to the restaurant, and I just reinvest everything back in
Wow.
over and over, and trying to just create this really special little moment in time, because that's the objective of it. It's not,
Yeah.
the objective of the restaurant was never to get rich. This isn't my get rich restaurant,
Right.
Right.
You have to open the
that's a
Chili's for
different-
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a guy who's interested.
Yeah.
I
can make wings.
think it's so special because we talk a lot about community. Obviously, it's something that is so important to us at Workbar. We talk a lot about Boston as a community and how supportive it is, I would say like culturally, of like small business and the little man bureaucratically. I can't speak to, I don't own a business here, but I imagine.
You feel the vibes.
I feel the vibes, but I think like people in Lynn are so lucky to have something like that right in their backyard where community is so important. I mean, I'm sure you're so sick of hearing like the Lynn City of Sin jokes, but like there is like a culture out there in that part of Greater Boston. I think they really have a really strong identity, and like fine dining is not the first thing that comes to mind.
Right.
So I think it's really cool that you are fostering a community like that so intentionally in a place like that where otherwise there wouldn't really be that kind of access. Like you said, I mean, like
Yeah.
people would have to be driving in.
Yeah, it's a little desolate.
Yeah.
A bit more is propped up since we've been in that area. The restaurant's about 5 years old. I lived across the street from the restaurant for much of its existence. I finally moved like 3 blocks away, so I don't see it.
Yeah.
I need a break.
like every moment.
I didn't look at it.
Yeah, which I would do every time I hear a car drove by.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Lynn City of Sin thing. At first, I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." I guess like it's
Yeah.
not like
Right.
I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I
Right.
guess it sounds cool, but like
Right.
I didn't really have a context of why that was the ring, and then I found out, and whatever. Fast
Right.
forwarding, like I moved to Lynn, and I lived on a block that basically almost everything on it was boarded up. The restaurant space that I have now was a coffee shop owned by this adorable old Korean couple who were trying to retire. I ate breakfast every day there, so I like befriended them, and that's how I ended up with the space.
That's cool.
But otherwise, there wasn't much else. There was just
Right.
a lot of trash and a lot of best sleep of my life. Like I didn't experience like crime or like weirdness.
Yeah.
But like it was just run down and quiet. And there's still no foot traffic, and so I knew when I got that space, I was like, we have to make a destination restaurant because no one is walking around here.
Right.
One Mighty Mill is across the street. It's a little cafe. They have a lot of traffic in the daytime, but we're open at night.
Yeah.
So after 5 o'clock, we're the only game on the whole block.
Wow.
Which is great for parking.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it can feel kind of exposed.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I learned, how to, as someone who's like not very social, like I like people, but like I like my connection piece to be cooking for them, and like I don't want to like go to Thanksgiving, but like I'll cook it. You know, like I don't. Do you need me to wash dishes? Yes, I'll be in there quietly doing that. Like that's my role that I'm very happy with in my life. And I knew that if I were gonna build a sense of community, then I'd have to like put myself out there a little bit more.
Right.
And the pandemic happened 5 months after we opened.
Oh my God. Brutal.
So I just had to. And like everyone had to get laid off, and like I somehow opened a restaurant without owning a computer, or I'm just so I'm like so redneck. Like I just don't like.
No,
I
love
want
that.
to.
That is the Boston
Like
grit
a
that we
Luddite.
always talk about.
Yeah.
You just make it work.
Yeah, you just make it work. Like I didn't. I'm not like very technologically advanced, but like I had to deal with Instagram, so I'm taking orders via Instagram because I'm like, well, just pay me cash later. Like I can't, I don't know, but I'll make it right now. It was just so like ridiculous, like how we pulled it off, and then so it became very focused on community in that kind of way. So like I spent more time on social media because I was interacting with people, and to this day, there's still people that come to the restaurant that I know their names because I've been cooking for them for like even longer than the restaurant may have been open. Like I remember names from like takeout orders from when I was a pop-up.
Wow.
And I've not like met them because I'm too shy and weird and I don't want to be like, hey, 8 years later.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Remember when you ordered.
Yeah. I remember your name from back then. Don't be creeped
I love
out.
that.
But
I just got back from the White House.
But yeah, we really hunkered down on that then, and it's became a big part of our identity. And although, like, over the course of time, we've become this tasting menu restaurant and this certain price point. The price point part is out of necessity to survive. Like I would do it for free if I didn't have to worry about money. Like I don't, like I'm not good at that. I don't like that.
Right.
Right, that's not the feel-good part.
Exactly, yeah. And so, like, learning all these people's tastes and preferences over the years. Like, I always know, like, Carl Reynolds, like, loves the cabbage salad and the egg noodles. And, like, if he doesn't, get that on his tasting menu, I'm going to, like, put it in a box for him to take home with him
That
after.
is so cute.
And, like,
the
that
dream.
kind of stuff. That's what fills my heart. And, like, that's the mentality that we've put into the staff as well. Like, it's like, we know Julie just had a baby. Like, offer her the glass of wine.
Yeah.
Or,
I love it. Yeah.
that's like not the greatest thing, but like,
No, but
they can
right.
have like a little more comfort at home. Like, send them with some chocolate mousse to have later when their kids are asleep or something.
Right.
I think that's so amazing. I think it's really beautiful because you think about getting those kinds of experiences at like small town restaurants that have been around forever. You're like a local at your pizza place, or you're, and I think so much of that went away in the pandemic.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
I promise makes sense, but I was at a coffee this morning at my kids' school about social emotional learning and what they're doing in K-2 at the particular school. I'm so lucky to live in a great district where they're really thinking about this from the jump for kids. And one of the things the principal was talking about is how, and we've talked about this before, how the pandemic just really completely eroded any sense of community. And the way he worded it, I thought was so interesting, is that we were told and like had to internalize that like the only way to stay safe is to be part of a tiny, tiny group. Like we started calling them pods or, however, and that was a long time to have that mindset that like safety is not going out. Safety is staying
Yeah.
home. Safety is only trusting your immediate family or your roommates, whoever you live with. And to be able, I hadn't thought of it that way before. And it's something I think about personally. I know I talk about it with my friends. It's like people like forget how to act out
100%,
now. It's like we don't go out anymore. We don't, I think eating out in restaurants is finally starting to come back. You would obviously
To
know way
feel
better than me,
normal again.
but to
Yeah.
feel normal
Normal,
again.
yeah.
And so I think that's really special that you were able to maintain that. I think that's probably super unique, if I'm being honest. You might know of some other restaurants who have done that. I don't.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, because like that is why you go to eat somewhere. You want to feel like
Connected.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you want to
I
have a
think that's
special
cool.
experience.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
People like saving up for a $600 meal or being on, getting on a reservation list 2 months out and doing all of that. I think that is so sort of purpose driven and important in today's like society to have something like that to look forward to.
Totally.
And to have these really special moments that are experiences put together by you and your team.
I
just is,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah. And like it's like it's such an honor to see the reservation. It's just like,
Yeah,
oh,
I
they
must-
want to
I
eat here.
mean,
Like
right.
I'm like, I can't wait to wake up that day and go set up and do this.
Yeah.
And I think
So
about like
cool.
every day. All I could I'm cooking in my sleep before I even
Right.
get
I
up.
love
And
Right.
that.
and
That's how
and-
passionate you are about it.
Oh yeah. I used to like go to work like still brushing my teeth in my pajamas just because I
That's
wanted to
wild.
start my broth and then like go back home and put my face on. Like
I love
can't-
that.
I gotta like I'm not. It's just so heartwarming.
Right.
And yeah, in the pandemic we were all quite isolated, and like even though I was having those interactions with lots of people like on a screen,
Right.
and through a window with masks on, like it was so much more meaningful then to be
For
like,
sure.
are you like, like these people have come to visit the restaurant like in masks, everyone's freaked out, no one
Right.
knows what to do, we're all trying to survive, and
Yeah.
they chose to come here. I'm gonna do everything in my
Yeah.
power to make it as special as possible.
Yeah.
That's
And
so amazing.
and we'll do that with the takeout too. So when I notice someone has ordered a few times before, I'll
Right.
put something they haven't tried yet as a
Yeah.
little gift. Like I love gifting.
Yeah, it
I
sounds
wanna,
like it. Yeah, like
yeah.
making
Love
a moment.
language.
Yeah.
Making the moment special and yeah.
Yeah, if we know it's your birthday,
Right.
we're doing something.
Yeah.
That's
like
so
we
cute.
dig deep for all the occasions
Yep.
to
love
personalize
that.
it as much as possible. So like if I find out it's your dad's birthday and he like loves chili, I'll do. I
Just
don't think I
throwing
can
it
make
out there.
chili,
Yeah,
but,
just
like,
if you.
yeah, like if you're,
Yeah.
we'll do something, like
Right.
make a little spice mix or something relevant to
that.
the interest, even if it's not relevant to the concept or like the service that we're offering, just to extend a little bit of
Right.
heart.
Yeah.
'Cause, like
Right.
it's not an easy time for a lot
No.
of people
No.
still, and like I've had like not to sound like this, but every time I go to a restaurant and I have a really weird experience, I make note of it and I'm like, let's make sure this never happens.
Yeah.
Like I don't ever want to walk into a restaurant and like sit at a bar and 3 bartenders walk by and then like I finally get water 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
we're not doing that.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
if you're not greeted within 2 minutes, something's like
Right.
on fire.
Right.
Maybe like it's
Right.
like
It's
really
an
bad.
emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really important to us, especially as times feel a little more difficult for some people.
Right.
That we really hone in on those details and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like I think about the food all the time and I'm in it, for lots of egotistical reasons about the food, of course, but like
Right.
but like that's the thing that makes the business.
Totally.
And like not even about the money, because like most of the time I'm not charging people for this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
those are the we're making returning
Right.
we're creating returning guests when that
It's-
happens.
You are, and you're creating core memories like Maddie has from from Cleo. That's a core
Yeah.
memory of yours. That's your favorite bite.
100%.
Yeah, which is
Love a core.
wild. Yeah,
Yeah.
just wild. So I was reading an article in the Globe, from back in September, and James Bond was in it, and he had closed down Bondier back in like 2021 or somewhere around there, and then he's been looking for his new restaurant spot. But something that he was talking about a little bit was that he likes to do weird things in the kitchen, and there's
Oink, oink.
there's this idea, and I think about this too, because when I try to make changes in our workspace design, it impacts like my audience and who is come. And we don't serve everybody. We're not meant for everybody at Workbar, but we're meant for most people. But does sort of this, economy that we're in today, all of these costs that are rising, it's not an easy business to run. When you do have, and it sounds like this doesn't impact you, the tasting menu where people can't pick out they don't know what they're coming in to buy. How does that impact like your creativity in terms of who your audience is? Do you just expect there to be the audience, I guess, for what you're cooking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been around in this really specific way for a really long time. I think if I just opened it tomorrow, I wouldn't be able to have like a 35-item menu with like a whole bunch of weird stuff. And expect people to wait to eat it and not know what they're getting. Like, that's a huge, big, weird deal that gives me like freaky imposter syndrome a lot.
I get that too.
And it's a big honor. But no, it's, you really have to like build up to that. Like when I first opened... Well, first of all, the space will dictate the concept. Like that's what we say in the industry a lot is like, I looked at a bunch of spaces for a Nightshade Noodle Bar, and the only one that felt right was this kind of like dumpy, dingy diner.
Yeah.
And we turned it into a fine dining restaurant. Yep. And like part of the reason for that was because before it was an old tailor shop. So it's got this funny wall thing with a hole in it, and like the stove is like facing everyone in the dining room, so it's like intimate in that way, and it's got this weird layout, and like we're very exposed, and Nightshade Noodle Bar wouldn't work in a place like Sushi at Temple Records, for example, that, which is also one long bar, but like that's specific to the space will always dictate what your concept is. And I think I worked for Jason Bond for many years and learned so much from him. And they were very, very formative years of my life. And being part of his team at Bondier, that was also very specific and super weird at the time. Like back then, like I was serving crickets there. Like,
that's weird.
It
Crickets,
was, it was like we were going hard. We still had all of our basics so that we weren't like pushing people out the door. But, like we had stuff for those who wanted to up the ante, and like I grew out of the cricket phase.
Yeah, good.
But
I think it's very 90s crickets.
Yes, like where there's other protein powders and stuff now, so we can get past it. But
so funny.
You ate a lot of crickets in the 90s?
I just feel like that was always like, like the fancy stuff. But am I right?
Yeah, you're right. I was just like, I'll
Maddie's
do it.
like, I got over crickets in
I
the
got
90s.
over crickets. I was 3 years old, and I was like, I'm done with the crickets. But no,
Crickets
like,
are so 90s.
Seeing like, like commercials for fancy restaurants, or like in movies in the 90s for like fine dining. And like, I remember, I'm not even gonna go into this next. Don't even, but yes, crickets in the 90s.
I think I know
I'm
what
glad
you're
you're
getting at.
past it, but
you
never know.
good.
It all comes back. So at least you have your cricket
Full
experience.
circle.
I have enough experience to not bring that back into my life.
Yeah.
But support others who want to experience it.
Want to do weird things.
But I mean, that particular thing I think worked out pretty well because of our proximity to Harvard. And at the time, Harvard was doing a lot of food science class around the protein of insects. And so you gotta think about your moment in time.
Yeah.
Totally. I think, there's plenty of times where I'm like really down on myself about things I haven't achieved yet.
What haven't you achieved?
Wait, let me just
I have
quickly.
a list.
I mean, I didn't mean to sound like that, but there's like specific
Of course
stuff
not.
I
Of
want
course
that
not.
I don't have
But
yet.
you are
And,
a highly celebrated, award-winning chef in your own right. Yeah.
in my reality, I just like go to work and go home.
Right,
Like don't
right.
I don't see it like I just see my milestones that I have yet to reach. And I'm grateful for the ones that I have, and I put them on the wall, and like I'm psyched about it. But like I'm still building and
You're
climbing
still
my
working.
ladder.
Yep.
And like the ladder isn't just there. You got to make it.
Yeah.
So like I think about that with the moment in time with the restaurant a lot, and how, you know, like how many, there's been a few times where I've been told and I've genuinely felt like this restaurant's just a little ahead of its time. Like, you know, like I'm not, you know, if we were anywhere else, or if I had a PR company right away when I came out, or if I talked more about being Jewish, maybe, you know, like there, you know, with the state of the world and like what people are focusing on, like I didn't really want to sell my sexuality or my dead grandma. You know, like I don't want to just be like the gay Jewish lady making weird shit. I want to be the great restaurateur that has a great restaurant for you to go eat at. And that's why I don't put my face all over everything and my sexuality all over everything, because it's not really what
you don't
I'm
want
selling.
that to drive the business to, and
you
like, want the food to be the
right. And you know, it's not always realistic in today's market. So
for sure.
So I got to find my moments to be like, and I'm gay.
Like,
this is one
guess
of them.
what?
I'm a Jew.
We are too. This is a safe space.
Where's my tribe at?
Right here.
But yeah, and you know, circling back to like Jason Bond and when we served crickets, because all this stuff was going on at Harvard, like your restaurant and everything you do, if you're not taking off at like the moment in time that is relevant, it's really hard.
You're
And
right.
like the pandemic squashed that moment in time for so many people, so many businesses, and like that's been a really big struggle, you know. And it's made restaurants a little bit more competitive, but it's also made most restaurants kind of give up.
Do you think it's made a lot better, or do you think that have we lost a lot of really good ones?
I think we've lost a lot of really good ones, but it's like, it's also not just about the restaurants. It's about service people in general. Like a lot of people dropped out of the industry. You know, a lot of, you know, tipping got really weird in the shutdown. Like there was that whole movement of like tip the servers, and like we're all like, but they've always made more money than us. What are you talking about? Now they're making $3,000 a week to stand there at the fucking window and like we're all working back, you know, like that was
ridiculous.
So that's why I made the admin fee, because I couldn't
I
couldn't have one employee making $3,000 in tips and the rest of us making
like eating
that makes no
it's
sense.
silly. So like,
I was gonna say eating ramen, but you are anyways.
It's like, but like it, you know, like that sort of social weirdness that we all got shoved in over that really pushed a lot of really talented, dedicated, focused people out of it, because there's like, you know, every restaurant's totally different, and like we're all governed by the same rules. Like I'm held to the same requirements as like Chili's on Route 1. It doesn't matter. We're all in the same little bucket of weirdness when it comes to laws, even though we all have totally different hands that were dealt, totally different. You know, our businesses have different missions.
For sure.
So like, you know, mine wasn't really built for profitability. Mine was built for like equity and fairness and like loveliness and like rainbows. But like, it's, you know, for people that have kids to feed, like I'm just like, I don't have kids. I'm totally, you know, like I'm not, it's just me. So I can afford to roll the dice on stuff. It just doesn't work for everybody. And it definitely just put a bad taste in a lot of service people's mouths about what the industry was going to become. Now, you know, with every layer of weird mess that we went through in the shutdown, I think that's what transformed the attitude about restaurants for those of us who work in it. And then on the other side, it was, you know, it felt like, you know, for me, it felt impossible to hire like-minded people. Like I couldn't find, you know, I just, you know, was finding people who needed jobs. And like, that's great. But like from the mission of my business, that's not really what we need. But like, I need someone to do this now. And then it just kept keeping us like kind of held back from different things. And then just makes more weird social mess for everybody. So it took a long time to grow out of that and to get, you know, we're not ever going to be on our feet from it. Like I'm still paying meals tax from 2020. Like it's never going to be. And the government is still like, yes, we still want 7% of everything that you ever made, even in the worst time of your life. when you were only open for 5 months before this,
Yeah.
and you have no money or assets.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I guess now you can wait for it.
Right.
Like I don't just
Like, where do you want me to
it.
get blood from a
Yeah.
rock?
There's
Right.
no debtor's prison anymore.
Yeah.
You can't put me in jail. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
you can. I shouldn't say that, but
Yeah, they hold back from other things, so we
Right.
haven't been able to like expand in other ways because of tax lien, and
Right.
and like
Which is ridiculous, because
Yeah, it's
wouldn't
so
it be
crazy.
better for everybody in Massachusetts if you could expand?
yeah,
Like,
that'd be
where
really
would the
great.
Right.
downfall to anybody be with that?
Yeah.
That would help everybody.
yeah. Yeah.
It's
But
just
it's not thought of.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
everything that happens affects restaurants. Every cultural thing that happens affects us. Like, if you know something as little as like the dumpster tax in the city of Lynn goes up a few percent points, like
Right.
it's the rage. People are mad, and then like somehow take it out on service people sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, no, I hear
You know,
that.
and, like
yeah.
we get looped into this, like, oh, taxes everywhere, and the restaurant wants to get paid more, and it's like
Yeah. You're like, well, sorry.
we also have rent,
Right.
You know, like
right. We're people too.
we're humans,
Yep.
Right.
You know,
We
So-
get that message a lot. We send that message a lot because we've had to absorb, inflation that's impacted our business probably 10 to 15% on our expenses.
Mm-hmm.
We pay rent, we have operating expenses, and we try really hard to absorb that and not pass that back on to our customers. But
Yeah, we do
at some
too.
point, there's
Your hands are
a Hail,
tied.
Yeah,
there's
there's
a Hail
nothing else you can
Mary
do.
that there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah.
The margins are too tight. So I think that, and we had to, there's so many, as you're talking, there are so many similarities to what we dealt with during the pandemic in terms of hiring people. It was hiring people who just needed jobs. They weren't hospitality driven. They weren't social people.
yeah.
They didn't want to be in front of our members the way we needed them in front of our members. But
It like
was,
transformed brands.
it did transform brands. It did.
Yeah.
So,
it did.
yeah.
I'm thankful we're out of that now, and we've been out of it for maybe a year or two.
Right.
But it was terrible, and we couldn't hire people.
Yeah,
You just
same.
couldn't even find people.
We
So-
we rebranded through it because I was like, I don't know how to, like when I opened Nightshade Noodle Bar, it was a la carte because I just wasn't ready to like tear the Band-Aid off and be a tasting menu restaurant, and I was really scared, and I wish I had the guts to do it in retrospect, but whatever. I'm happy with everything
Yeah.
the way it turned out. But then when the shutdown happened, we were like takeout, and I was like, great. Well, I can't sell like this foamy lobster thing in a takeout
Right.
cup anyway.
Oh,
And like,
yeah.
so luckily I had Nightshade pop up for 2.5 years before that. So I was used to traveling, like building
Oh,
dishes that could
yeah.
travel and stuff. So we did that like overnight.
wild.
So like suddenly like what I intended to be a nice restaurant was just like a full blown like noodle takeout joint, which it's called Noodle Bar, but like
Right.
it's not
But
like
that's
all
not-
Bar,
noodles.
right.
Yeah.
That wasn't the concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, and then so, and then I had to be open for lunch too. So I was like, well, we may as well sell banh mi.
Right.
and,
Yeah.
You know,
Chicken
and then
sandwich, right.
so I just did everything I could to keep it as true to the original mission of the brand as possible. But of course, life just had to happen. And I knew that I was going to make more money on soft shell crab banh mi than like what I really want to make. So
Yeah.
that had to be it. And then summer came around the first time, and everybody's doing like, wants clam rolls and lobster rolls and
Right.
whatever. Nightshade Clam Shack was born.
Oh,
and I
that's
was
wow.
like, you know what? Scrap Nightshade Noodle Bar altogether. We're just going to be Nightshade Clam Shack until we reopen. Because
Yeah.
like, this is more fun. We're all way more excited to do
Right.
this. I now have a use for my 2 pastry chefs that I've like forced to be
Right.
savory cooks because it was that or nothing. And like, so we're like making like homemade brioche buns,
That's
and like I was making up
cool.
all these like crazy clam
so
rolls and stuff.
hungry
And
Wow.
like, and that became, a part of the brand identity in a different way. And then when
How
it got
inventive.
time to,
I know,
like-
that's
Yeah.
really cool.
it was like a joke at first.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember just being like so upset and being like, I should just open like Nightshade freaking Clam Shack and just
everybody's
like
like-
give up. Like
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. I'm
Right.
like crying, losing my mind. And then I was
Yeah.
like, wait, we make a pretty mean clam roll. I think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
And then it did.
It's
And
so
I'm like
funny.
so happy with that. So now we just run that for lunch in the summers.
That's
That's
cool.
awesome.
But then when Nightshade Noodle Bar, when we were able to like open again
Yeah.
for in-service dining, we did a full rebranding.
Neat.
We like rebranded everything.
Did
like,
you?
Yeah, we like spruced up the logo, made it
Neat.
like gold and drippy, and like
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
made it
Yeah.
like tried to focus more on like the sex appeal of the brand.
Right.
Since it was now a place that people would be going in person.
Right.
and like that's the kind of stuff that like you know, like when I look at other businesses that survived and thrived and then grew
Right.
like substantially because of that, like that was the kind of stuff I was seeing in other parts of the country. I'm like, okay, well, these really like renowned restaurants
Right.
in California and Texas and everywhere else, they're doing, you know, they're making like different versions of their concept to accommodate like the kind of money that people have in this time.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, I was like, how do I make something that people can get 2 times a week?
Yeah.
Right.
And also, like, it's all a mind game, right? So,
Oh
like,
my God,
I was like, you
totally.
know, I'm getting, like, bitched at for having $30 noodles, but,
Yeah.
like, let's just put some clams in a box.
Yeah.
Right.
People are
Right.
totally
Then-
fine playing
right,
that
I
here.
know.
Right.
And, you know, I want to do it, like, the right way and make it really
Right.
fancy and nice, but, like, stopped hearing about
Oh my
Right.
God, it's
how
crazy,
I'm
I
too
know.
expensive and, like, I need a price point.
Yeah.
'Cause it's
Right.
business. And then that helped us form the concept for the tasting menu side of things, because I was like, you know, people can't just like sit here and eat 2 snacks and drink a beer for 3 hours. Like,
Right.
we're only 30 seats. Like,
Yeah.
get out. Like,
Yeah.
we
Right.
gotta go.
Yep.
Which is like the worst thing that you could say in the hospitality industry.
No, but
like,
you get it.
Yeah.
like
Right.
you
Get it.
can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
if you walk into like a big ass restaurant that's got a bunch of bar seats, great. That's
Right.
what that's for. That's
Right.
not for your
Go to Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah,
yeah,
Not,
that's not
yeah.
for your hometown
Right.
little restaurant with like the line of people waiting to eat.
Right.
Like, and so I was like, okay, well, if we need to make at least $100 a seat.
Right.
So that means we need to just make it mandatory. And I was like,
Yeah.
let's work backwards.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
then,
smart way to do it.
and like, that's just how I've been able to figure out all of it as someone who's not owned before. I was just like, well, what's the goal? How do I work backwards? How
Yeah.
do I incorporate the brand and the mission? And then like keep it really hospitable and keep people engaged in the meantime.
Yeah.
And it was like with little stuff like we're selling 2 clam boxes. That's a $60 lunch tab.
Right.
And just because we love them and
Yeah.
Right. Here's some chocolate mousse cups too. 'Cause,
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Right.
that might cost me $2 or whatever that it, you know, could hurt at some point, but in this moment, like
Right. It's worth it.
it's worth it because
Yeah.
like you feel good, I feel good, you might come back. Even if you don't, that's okay. Like maybe you'll tell somebody,
I was
maybe
just
you'll leave a
gonna say,
nice
you'll tell it-
review.
right.
Totally.
Like that's what we're really playing the long game for.
Right.
And then it, you know, finding the line where it doesn't feel like slimy to do that to somebody.
Yeah.
'Cause, like
Totally.
I don't feel like, you know, I don't always feel good about being like, let's like buy their drinks and send them this.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like I don't want them to feel like weirded out.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm like, I just want you to come back.
Yeah. Totally.
Just trying to be nice.
Just come
No,
back.
I
I'm just
feel
trying to be
like
nice. I'm
now
just weird
people
about
know.
it. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just weird in general. That's how I feel. I'm just like, well, everything's going to be weird because I'm weird. But I think people come to sort of expect that at restaurants. Like that doesn't feel weird anymore, I don't think.
Yeah.
To be like, feel like you're a part of the experience.
Yeah.
I would be stoked.
Yeah,
Are we
I just
backing
really
up on
want people
time?
to feel like
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
yeah.
That's my favorite book.
we do that too.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't know what a CM is.
Okay. Pretend like do
Pretend
it naturally.
It, came to it was an original thought.
That you didn't have to tell me.
I thought you were about to be like, it's 7 o'clock at night, you guys.
Yeah. So, I mean, at Workbar, we give all new employees the book Unreasonable Hospitality, which has become like our Bible as
Yeah.
we think about and everything you're talking about, from giving people like the mousse cups to just like it's somebody's birthday, I'm going to make chili for them. It's somebody's like creating those moments and going above and beyond. And it's just, we try to do that
Yeah.
at Workbar, and we try to sort of set on an employee's like first day, set the stage that we strive for that unreasonable hospitality. And it really, that book has just, it's changed how I manage people. It's changed how I think about Workbar. It's changed how I think about the day-to-day experiences people have within and we're a workspace. Like we're not,
Right.
you know, people aren't signing up 2 months in advance to come into Workbar, but I still want them to have those moments that matter when they're in our space.
Yeah.
And that whether they come back or not, or they tell a friend, or I think that, and that to me really has come out of the pandemic too, is like, there's so much, you know, there's so much like sadness and not awesome things out in the universe when people do come into Workbar. I do want to give them those experiences that make a
Right.
difference.
You want them to come in and like just be able to leave all that.
Leave it at the
Totally.
door.
Just
Yeah.
have a different tone.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. We do that too with our front of house that we've given
Do
them
you?
all that. And then right now for
Teenage boys,
my
everybody.
for The back of house right now, I bought everyone copies of Lessons in Excellence by Charlie Trotter.
Oh.
And that encompasses, like, it's not just for chefs. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, there's reference to all sorts of businesses in there. So I would recommend that if you
I
love
love
reasonable
that.
hospitality.
Yeah, I love a good
Yeah.
And it's out of print, and it's like, so it's like expensive, but I just
Yeah.
comb Amazon and I find
Yeah.
every copy under $50 I could find used.
That's
And
so
I
funny
just
you
like
get it.
I love
get
that.
them when I see them.
Yeah.
But and there's a couple in that lineup of books from him, but we're doing that now. So every week we have a chapter, then we have a meeting about it.
Ooh,
And
I love that.
and sort of thinking about, like, because a lot of it is like more business focused, like
Right.
how you present your business, and like, let's talk about marketing in this kind of way.
Yeah.
And like I frame it for them like, this is about you. This is about like whether or not your Instagram name is, there's something in my beard to
Right.
your name in a professional way.
Right.
Yeah.
This is how you project yourself as a member of the company or just in your life. You know,
Like
this
as you
isn't even
brand, your
just
brand
about work.
identity as an individual. Yeah.
Yeah, your brand. Yeah, that's
Right.
exactly what I'm trying to
Yeah.
articulate.
No, that's I totally get that.
It's,
yeah.
because like we've all just been in this weird depressive trance for
Right.
so long, where like,
Ain't that
you
the
know,
truth?
seeing people walk around in like dirty pajamas is like
Right.
totally acceptable now.
I know.
But like,
It's weird.
I don't like it, you know, and that's
Yeah.
not,
I don't
that's
either,
not the
yeah.
kind of
Right,
productive
right.
workspace I want to have.
You're right.
So like having, you know, setting the tone with that and being like, I want you to read this because I want you to know where my head is at,
Yeah.
because like there's not a whole lot of other bonding that we really have time for in that workspace, because
That
Right.
makes sense.
you know, like we're either in service, which feels like full throttle
Right.
madness, or, you know, we're in prep, which is like different full throttle madness.
Right.
So it's just, you know, like I wanted them to know like the kind of tone that I'm trying to have with myself
Right.
as a business owner, and how I want to communicate with them. And so they have this, you know, resource, you know, and like
Right.
it's nice to see it, you know, even after like a week. I'm like, you know, emails have punctuation and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right,
thank
you're
you.
like,
We needed this.
wow.
Like this is
No,
yes.
it's true. It sets expectations, I think, in a really productive way, because it's like you said,
It's transparent.
it's transparent, but it also teaches you sort of like, it's not just about having good hospitality in a restaurant. It's about how you manage people, how
Right.
you portray yourself. All of those things
Right.
are important in the workplace, but equally important outside of the workplace. And you learn so much about yourself
Yeah.
when you have to reframe your day to day like
Yeah.
that.
And it might be fine for somebody else to go work in somebody else's restaurant and have those different type of standards.
Right.
But in mine,
That's
it's
great.
not.
Right. No
Like at
judgment.
Workbar,
Yeah.
it's not. Go somewhere else.
Right.
Right.
Please
That's
use
exactly how I feel.
punctuation
Exactly.
in your emails.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we're in in restaurants and hospitality. We live in an environment of immediacy. Like
Yeah.
we are used to whatever we're asked of to just happen. You know, it's not like I'll circle back on that before end of week kind of industry. It's like everything we need is right now, because like that's
Right.
what the guests need, and like that's just how it works. So, you know, we have that culture with our communications as well, even if it's an email that like you don't need to really respond to, or a lot of people just like
Right.
let that one go. Like ours will be like a heard or like a we
love
chef
that.
or a something, just to be like, I've acknowledged this.
Right.
Yeah.
So therefore I know that all of them have seen it. So like if I, you know,
Right.
we're all on the same page, we don't have to talk about that. There's so many things to talk about, you know, and I get so tired of hearing my own voice.
Right.
feel that.
Right. No, same.
Yeah.
As
And
we sit here on our own podcast.
Right. As
Hearing our own
Maddie and I
voices.
talk
I know.
Yeah.
about. Yeah. Okay.
But it's so true.
it's so important to
It's so
company
important.
culture.
Well, you're clearly crushing it. Whatever you're doing is working.
Thanks.
We
Trying.
You really
have like
are.
really enjoyed this, and I want to talk for like 20 more hours.
I
but
feel
I
like we
know,
could,
I know,
but-
I have like more.
I know.
it's like-
we were told that Rachel does have to go to the
Yeah.
restaurant.
Somebody's got to make your delicious noodles, people.
I know. But thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank
You're
you.
crushing it. We have girl crushes on you.
We have major crushes on you.
How we are now.
Yeah.
And that's just life.
know.
That's just
We will-
that's a problem you're gonna have to live with.
Yep. We will definitely have to come out to Lynn ASAP.
It's
We
not
would love
far.
that.
It's not.
Yeah.
No, it's like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not far. So I
Not,
think
you know,
if we
at
can
the
get
right
a
time of day.
reservation.
I know.
you know
See ya-
somebody.
see ya
We
in-
do.
see
You
ya
have
in
a direct
January.
Yeah.
You have a direct contact.
We'll text
All
you.
right.
We always got
Thank you
tricks up
so,
our sleeve.
so much.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. This was awesome. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jack.
You're a rock star.
You are a rock star, damn girl.